Today, I returned with a review of the HBO show Oz. Now, Oz was a show that ran for 6 seasons and had 56 episodes. It takes place in the fictional maximum security prison of Oswald State Penitentiary. It centers around the clergy there, the administrative staff, and the prisoners on Oz. It was a very interesting show, an excellent show, one of the better shows on HBO. Now, this show is definitely not for anyone that doesn't want to see a very gritty, dirty, dark portrayal of prison life. There's nothing romantic or nice about this. It is hard, it is dark, and it is certainly not for anyone that is not going to be able to watch that and enjoy it. It has moments that are certainly not for simple casual viewing. It is, of course, a serial, so they have to be watched in order. You cannot just pick up season 4 of Oz and be straight. You will not, in fact, be straight at all. You'll be very, very confused. So you have to watch them from the beginning, one episode after another, all in order. Now, in Oz, I used to watch this with my wife, but they had one episode, and I'd watched it before her, and this one guy is raping this other guy, and the way his hip motion is going, it was absurdly disturbing. It was so vivid and real the way that they had portrayed that in the scene, and it was just kind of like just a pan by. But I mean, it was just so sickening to me. That's why I was like, you can't watch this anymore. That was, if it's too much for me, it's gonna be way too much for you. It sort of reminded me almost of the movie Vulgar the Clown, which I thought was probably the worst movie I've ever seen. I definitely don't recommend anyone to ever watch Vulgar the Clown, particularly the underrated version. It was just a difficult movie to watch. Now, enough of that. Talk about Oz. The show, aside from its tremendous amount of adult themes, and it has pretty much every adult theme you could think of. You know, it has male and female rape, male on male rape. It has murder. It has drugs. It has, of course, theft and arson. All sorts of things like that. It pretty much runs the gamut. This is criminals, a criminal element at their best, but they bring you into the character's world and let you to see things from the character's perspective. The way the characters fractionalize themselves out into various sorts of gangs and present a lot of interest in the character so that you can begin to empathize, begin to relate, begin to see things from their perspective, and begin to like them. You certainly can very easily find yourself liking the characters. And a large part of that is because some of the acting and the writing of the show is extraordinarily solid. This is not the sort of show that you'd find on ABC or NBC or CBS. This is a very believable, very credible show with some absolutely outstanding actors. Just to speak about a few of the characters that I particularly liked. I think, hands down, Eamon Walker's character, Kareem Saeed, has to be the best character on the show. He's this Muslim. He's just seething with rage, but he tries to put it aside. He tries to not be violent. He tries to not give in to those ideals. He's a man that feels the entire world, the system has been rigged against him, has been put upon him, and he's in there for arson. And he's such a compelling character that even if you don't like him, you just say, "Oh, I can't like the character," but at the same time you will, because he's just so. The acting is just so just the seething rage, the juxtaposition of of control. That's the character's whole thing. It's control. You know, it's about society's control on him. His attempt to exert control against society. His rage is control over his body. His mind's attempt to exert control over his rage. And there's so many different issues of control that run with the character Saeed that make him extremely interesting. And of course, through the series, I can't go through and recount every episode, but he has his own plots and agendas. He has his own rivalries and problems with the Muslims, and of course, obviously with other portions of the prison. And then you'll see how he'll react to other prisoners when he'll be able to find commonality and common ground with prisoners that aren't of his faith, that aren't particularly like with white prisoners. As there's a lot of racial motivation, a lot of racial tension, a lot of prejudice involved around the character, both towards him and from him towards other characters, which really gives the character a tremendous air of reality, and a character that I found just absolutely just an impeccably well done acting job from Eamon Walker. I hope I'm pronouncing his first name right there. Now, besides him, really, there was just a lot of good characters. The character who was the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood, Vern Schillinger, the same sort of situation there. A character so defined by race, and there's lot of racism in the show because the show is not apologetic. It's not politically correct. It's not trying to present anything other than perhaps a darker view of reality, or perhaps a authentic view. It depends on how how you look at that. I certainly don't know what maximum security prison looks like on the inside from a convict standpoint. But this show, definitely, if you watch it, it's certainly one of those scared straight sort of situations. You certainly wouldn't want to come up against these individuals in there in the jail. But Schillinger, and they constantly have his name mispronounced in the show, and he gets really upset about that, which makes just a little bits of comedy there. The character, interestingly enough, the character has a degree of a sense of humor. He's a father who's completely failed. I think he had 3 sons in the series, and I believe all of them end up in the prison at some point, and I believe one of them was even killed in the show. He becomes arch rivals with another white guy, Tobias Beecher, who's played by Lee Tergesen. Vernon J.K. Simmons is the actor that plays Vernon Schillinger, and he went on. He probably was the biggest breakout star of the series. I don't know if Eamon Walker really broke out to do too much after this. I haven't researched into it. I can't actively think of anything else that I saw him in, but I can't. He must have done some things. He just has tremendous talent, and I certainly would like to see some more of his work. In fact, I think I'm going to research and find out what he's done after that to catch up with him. He Schillinger provides this interesting point, and with he and Beecher, there is a lot of really high impact scenes. One of them being when Beecher finally gets him down because he brands a Nazi. I think he brands a swastika right on Beecher's backside, and of course, he rapes Beecher in the show, and Beecher eventually pins him down and just takes a dump right on his face, and with he pins him down with this bench, like a weightlifting bench, I think, just right in front of everybody. The hostilities with the characters are tremendous, and they're brought into eventually sort of counseling, trying to get them to come together somehow, as if those sort of wounds could ever be healed. There's, I mean, I could go on and on talking about their plot line, but it runs a long ways through the show. It was really excellent, and interesting how Beecher eventually sort of becomes in this very emotionally involved homosexual relationship, and that that provided some it provided some more aspect of the show. But I'm not going to try to go into too many of the plots too much because there were so many. I could be here for hours and hours, basically just recanting the entire show to you. They had an Irish group in there, which honestly that was one of the things that didn't. It felt unrealistic. I'm Irish. Irish American, predominantly my ethnicity, but I mean, I don't think the Irish are really a factor anymore in the jail system, so I found that a little difficult to buy into. I could see, okay, an Aryan Brotherhood, or the Muslims, or a black group, or like they had like a Latino group, or the bikers, but an Irish group, I was like, I don't know about that. That sounds like that was something that happened in like 1935, maybe, but nowadays I just don't know if that. And maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'm not an expert on prison gangs and so forth, but that's one I have never particularly heard of. But his brother comes in, and his brother he was like a simpleton, and but he's still like real dangerous. He's like formerly a fighter, and there's a lot of interest back and forth there. And he becomes in love with the doctor character, who later goes on. She shows her acting skill. Uh, I don't have her directly in front of me here, but she shows her acting skill later in Dexter, where she plays the lieutenant and I think becomes the captain later, where she's a completely different character. Like she's very dislikable in Dexter, but she's very sweet and different and all. So I like when the character can go both ways. Batista from Dexter is also in this show. Now he kind of was the same character. He Yeah, I didn't think much of his acting skill in here, quite honestly. By the HBO standard or the Showtime standard, I think he's a little weak on the acting skill. But the show even had the guy from that old show, Coach, who played Dauber, like the big retarded guy. He was like a guard, but he was also like secretly with the Aryan Brotherhood. Of course, I mean, the guy looked Aryan. He's like this 6'5", muscular, blonde hair guy. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see him like in a small part. He used to be a major part on a major show, and he had this tiny part on like an HBO show. But I don't know how much the guy had worked between Coach and Oz. Still, he had a role there. One of the other characters, someone else who was a, sort of a surprise on Oz, was Luke Perry. Luke Perry makes an appearance for a while on the show Oz, and he plays a preacher, and he runs into this. They have this whole religious sort of back and forth where, let me try to see if I can find the character's name here. I am cheating and looking up at some notes here. Oh yeah. So Luke Perry plays Jeremiah Coulter, and which is kind of odd because he's on a show named Jeremiah. But anyway, Jeremiah Coulter was a very interesting character. I've always thought Luke Perry was an underrated actor. You know, people look at him, 90210, well, that guy can't act at all. But he has good facials, and he can bring across a lot of emotion. I think he's quite underrated. Not a poor level actor. You know, a lot of the, say like a 90210 actors and actresses really weren't very good. I would definitely put him towards the top of that list in terms of talent. Not to say that he's as good as some of these other actors and actresses, but whatever. One of the other characters I really liked was Simon Adebisi. I'm not even going to try to say the guy's name because I'm just going to completely butcher it. But I used to work with a guy named Clement Bryant who looked exactly like him, except Clement Adebisi kind of had a small head, and Clement had this huge head. And he's a Jamaican guy, and just an enormous guy. He's like he did like pro bodybuilding competitions, like 285, 6'3", jacked, and he'd wear like just like a normal hat in there, and I'd always come up with a message by pull it off his head and then take it. I kind of get it and tilt it and put it on his head like this. And but while I was doing it, he would almost fall out of his chair because we worked together all night long. So sometimes not too much to do. He would almost fall out of the chair, or if we were standing, fall over laughing, and I'd do it right in the middle. We'd go out to get something to eat right in the middle of the restaurant, because he looked just like Adebisi, except he had a big old head. But so we used to have a good time with that. Another one of the characters that was really excellent was sort of the narrator of the show, who was here he is, Harold Perrineau. Yeah, I'm sure I mispronounced him, but he was August Hill. I think he was in that wonderful movie with the girl from Saved by the Bell. What was it called? I don't know, the stripper movie that got really horrendous ratings. He was in that, I believe. I think it's the first time I saw him in anything. He was in, of course, later he was in Lost, as well as the guy who played Simon Adebisi. They were both in Lost. Simon Adebisi also has some very disturbing scenes. He was a straight psycho on the show, and quite a good actor. He's from England. I really enjoyed his performance in this. He was a good actor. He did a good job on the show. There's a really violent scene where he rapes this one Italian guy, and the guy, I think they have like a whole mobster like faction in there as well. There are also these two old guys in it, and they like tunnel. They do this whole gimmick where they tunnel out of the prison, which also is like, I don't know if I quite buy that being possible. That seems like you would have to have a really incompetent guards to not be able to notice that. But they kind of like try to put it over like, well, they're so old and of no threat that nobody would even notice them. So they had that scene going, and the guys would be down there in like this main area, and they'd watch TV, and they'd have issues over that, and there was always so much tension. They have Chuck Zito. He plays one of the mafia guys. There's also a biker gang that has Evan Seinfeld from Biohazard in it. So a lot of the show has to do with politics, the gang politics, who controls what jobs, who controls what drugs are coming in, who controls various illegal activities, and the politics mixing with a lot of racial politics to really produce just a show that has absurd amounts of drama in it. It is so dramatic because things can just pop off at any moment. And Oz, definitely, if you haven't seen it, you need to grab season 1. You need to watch it, each episode in order. It might be a bit abrasive to your mind at first, but I will tell you this: if you give it a shot, if you have any sort of stomach for that sort of thing, and if you don't, you might want to pass on Oz. But if you do, the show is excellent. The quality of acting is superb. Definitely the best prison show you're going to find, and it really deals with mature elements in an unflinching, unquestioning, uncompromising manner. And Oz is one of the better shows that HBO has put on. So I give it a strong recommendation. If you have seen Oz, if you like Oz, if you don't like Oz, hit it in the comments below. Let me know why. Engage in that discourse on the topic at hand.